Let me read to you a passage from the 6th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 12 to 16. It's the Gospel for Wednesday of the 30th week in Ordinary Time. St. Luke writes, "One of those days Jesus went out to a mountain to pray, and spent the whole night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him, and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles: Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon who was called the Zealot, and Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor." That's from Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 16. What does that suggest to us? Well, it suggests sin and betrayal. What do I mean? Well, our gospel scene today is a momentous one in our Lord's public ministry, which is already well in process, and many disciples are following him. The implacable hostility of the scribes and Pharisees has begun, and it will not abate till our Lord is dead on the cross. Our Lord could see the final upshot, and he now takes a decisive step, the establishment of the 12 from among his disciples. They, the 12, will constitute the foundation of his church, and a little later, from among these 12, he would appoint Simon to be the rock on which the enduring structure would stand. The seriousness of this step is shown in the fact that, as we are told, Jesus went out to a mountain to pray, and he spent the whole night in prayer to God. He, divine Son of the Father, spent the whole night in prayer before taking this step. He was contemplating the church, his creation, and praying for its mission in the long history of the world. He was founding a dynasty, a kingdom that would never end. He had before him those whom he was about to appoint as its foremost officers, its founding generals. He would be with them and with his church to the end of the age. Bonaparte attempted to found an empire at the beginning of the 19th century that would outshine all previous empires. Marching on Europe and overwhelming formidable enemies, he installed his family members on various European thrones. But as is the case with earthly kingdoms, it came to its end. In his particular case, it was a rapid and ignoble ruin that left him with nothing. But Christ was establishing the messianic kingdom that would last forever and would triumph in complete glory. He knew exactly what was best, and he could not make a mistake. As St. John points out, he knew what was in a man. He knew his men, and he chose them with great care and decision. Yet, we might wonder, he chose Judas. Our gospel passage tells us that when morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles: Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon who was called Zealot, Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. Judas turned out so very badly. The inspired authors of the Gospels did not hesitate to include this seemingly embarrassing fact, that one who lived in such intimacy with Jesus, one who was chosen personally by our Lord himself, turned his back on his wondrous master and betrayed him. Did Jesus of Nazareth make a serious mistake? Surely he could have chosen instead, say, Matthias, who would, after his ascension into heaven, replace Judas as one of the 12. We read that Matthias was among the disciples who had been with our Lord from the baptism of John right to his ascension. We read that in Acts chapter 1, verses 21 to 22. Perhaps Matthias had been present among the disciples when from their number our Lord chose Judas. Perhaps even Judas had been near Matthias at the moment of his being chosen. Who knows? What an honour had come to Judas. Our Lord had made no mistake. Judas was the man intended by God from all eternity to be one of the 12. He could have been a great saint, with his day celebrated in the church's liturgical year till the end of the world. But he opened his heart to Satan, and Satan carried him off. It is the mystery of sin, and we must all of us, take notice. St. Paul writes in one of his letters that we have been chosen by God from before the foundation of the world to be in Jesus Christ, holy and full of love in his sight. That is our vocation. This is the deliberate choice of God, by God, of each one of us. But we can fall away if we do not guard our hearts from sin. We can deliberately turn from Christ and indeed be damned forever. How is it that God can choose one who, in the event, himself chooses to reject his call? It is the mystery of God creating persons with free will and able to sin. Let us ponder on the tragic significance of the mention of Judas in the inspired text. He was the traitor. On one occasion, 2 of the 12 approached our Lord to ask for places at his right and his left in his kingdom. And our Lord countered with a more fundamental question. Could they drink his cup? We can, they said. Our Lord proceeded to promise that they would drink his cup. But elsewhere, in John chapter 6 verse 70, he describes Judas, whom he had deliberately chosen to be one of the 12, his special companion and collaborator. He was, he said, a devil. John chapter 6 verse 70. Let us, each of us, take heed and every day renew our stand with Jesus, affirming our choice for him and affirming our renunciation of sin and Satan.